My name is Bob Elias, and as chairman of the Associated Student Speakers Program, I'd like to welcome you to our third lecture of the spring quarter. We have with us today one of the greatest directors, I think, in Hollywood, Mr. George Cukor. He has been directing pictures now for 40 some odd years, and some of his credits, couldn't list them all. Some of them are Romeo and Juliet, Camille, Philadelphia Story, My Fair Lady, Star is Born, numerous Spencer Tracy and Katharine Hepburn films, and also the one we're going to show film clips from today, David Copperfield. I think maybe before we show the clips, we can discuss some aspects of the film, what went into making the film, and whether it came off to Mr. Cukor's expectations or what he thinks of the film. And I'd like to introduce right now for his remarks Mr. George Cukor.
Thank you. Thank you. I really don't know what I think of the film because I don't think I've seen it since it was done. And when was it done? In 1935. Well, I haven't seen it for a long time. And also, one feels that it isn't your work. That was 35 years ago. I was quite different than I am now, so therefore I can look at it rather impersonally. And I've not seen it. It was made for an audience 35 years ago. I'm not making any excuses for it, but therefore, when you say what do I think of it, I tell the audience to see what they think of it. Now, you conduct this, and you ask me questions.
We're going to be showing the film clip that we chose is of W.C. Fields playing the role of MacArthur in David Copperfield, for which he was on loan from his studio. And there have been people, critics that I've read, they claim that the many versions of David Copperfield made since then, every actor who has played MacArthur has been playing W.C. Fields. What do you think? What do you think of this?
Well, I think it's very odd, your selection, because W.C. Fields is very much in the public eye. He's a sort of hero at the moment. I think it's very odd, the selection of doing David Copperfield, which is a great big work and a great big canvas, to concentrate on one rather minor character, but that's because it's very interesting to the young people. Now, you said the various versions. I think W.C. Fields as Micawber. W.C. Fields really, I don't think he ever played a part before. He used to make up things that he's written. You see, it so happens that it was an ideal meeting of a part and a personality and an actor. I don't think he ever really played a legitimate part, but luckily for us, he was so well cast in this thing that it worked very well. I'm interested to see that the David Copperfield, that his scene should be selected for the ones that you want. It's as though, I don't know, you did some other classic, or I don't know, Romeo and Juliet, and you concentrated on a minor character, as diverting as he is.
Right. Throughout today's discussion, what we have is we have mics set up, and if any of you have questions, either right now or after we show the film clips, you can pull those mics out and carry them around to the seats, and just hop in any time with the question. But what we're going to do is we're going to show the film clip now, and we're going to just see if you're right.
Right about what?
Yeah, if they agree that it,
Oh, well.
Okay. You can't see it here, so if you can pull your seat over.
Yes, I'll go here. I literally have not seen this all these years.
Yes, years I've been hounded, most unjustly, by my creditors. Short-sighted fools they are.
I'm sorry, sir.
I grant you that I have already hired a cool tree, to have a vestry tree, and Her Majesty's bereavement, and found nothing entirely suited to my somewhat special talent. But now,
Yes, Mr. McCall.
I am contemplating something to turn up. Hi, my Jody. You can leave with me, just.
Yes, sir.
Now, where is your work now? Gentlemen, Indiana is judged to be a highly distasteful collective. And the tale, cowardly, uncouth, and deserving of merciless chastisement. You will oblige me by removing your own savory partner from my immediate vicinity. It's called, get out!
Oh, thank you, Mr. McCall. You're so kind to me.
Not at all. And now, this is a repetitive in that I am always expecting something extraordinary to turn up. Let us return and discover what culinary triumph Mrs. McCall has prepared for us.
Oh, how wonderful.
Imperative, my dear Countess, imperative. For as I have frequently had occasion to observe, when the stomach is empty, the spirits are low. I think, my dear Countess, that we can confidently depend upon Mrs. McCall assembling a tureen of cottage soup, veal cutlet, bread, and a jar of egg pop.
And the pudding?
The pudding! That's your pudding! The very thing! Will you, Mr. Colbert? You are under misapprehension, my good fellow. Oh, no, you got your all right. You'll have a 2 pound paper last year. Officer, you can do Mrs. McCall get under arrest. Upon what authority do you take this unwarrantable procedure? Hold on a second. I'm the assistant officer of the sheriff of the Middlesex. Are you telling what this? How do you perceive before you the shattered fragment of a temple once called man? The leave the Twitter, the card of day goes down upon the dreary sea. In short, I am forever lost.
I thought I was going to keep going till he gets on the stagecoach, but okay. Now you.
I must tell you that that is Dickensian. Micawber, who was always the optimist and waiting for something to turn up, and the text was Dickens. He improvised a little. He's the character that Fields plays is somebody who life just conspires against him. If he has a shoe, it slips off, and if it every inanimate objects too are conspire to make his life difficult. But the text is Dickens, and he was interesting to work with him because he would ask certain things. There's a scene later that I remember now where he was writing a letter, and he was working at a desk set up rather high, and he said there was a cup of tea. There was an inkwell there. He said, "You mind if I have a cup of tea as well?" So he was always putting his pen on the cup of tea, and then when he stepped down from this high stool, he said, "Could there be a wastepaper basket here?" And he stepped into the wastepaper basket. Life was full of every sort of complication, and the character is that he and Mrs. Micawber, who was a very good actress, Jean Cadell, they lived in this very, very sloppy life, but they were happy and full of hope. That was the part a thing. But as I tell you, it was a very minor part of David Copperfield.
Well,
Now,
I think you have a tremendous accomplishment there, just getting him to put his arm around the little kids.
yes. Also, oh no, that's well, that's all nonsense. I think that was a kind of a joke that he made up. But one of the problems of the thing of making the picture is that there's a very clear visual thing, because Dickens he had an illustrator, and these characters are very well known, Uriah Heep and all the others, and to make these people look like these characters and yet make them human and not make them caricatures, that was one of our problems, to give it a kind of style. Now you asked the questions.
Was there, yeah, well, you have done other famous novels
Yes.
into films, and
Yes.
Is there any problem in taking a novel that is widely read and well known, like David Copperfield or Little Women, which you also did, and adapting it to the screen? Aren't people bound to be disappointed? Because there's always the thing, the book was better. How do you tap that?
Well, I tab what you say is wrong. I tell you, I think when you do a novel, obviously you can't get the whole thing into it, but you've got to know what made that novel, what is the strength of a novel, what has made it survive, and you've got to know what is strong and keep that essence, and don't try to slick it up. Don't try to improve it too much. For example, the thing is, I did Little Women. I must say I'm terribly disconcerted by audience leaving, but that's life, isn't it? Anyway, for example, Little Women, there were certain awkwardnesses technically. The hero was introduced in the last third of the picture. The one girl apparently seemed to have 2 death scenes. But in my opinion, you cannot slick out a work like that. You can't correct it out of it if you have the real essence of it. You don't want to make it too slick a piece. Now, people said about Copperfield, they said, oh, the second half of the picture wasn't as good as the first. Well, I said the first volume of David Copperfield was infinitely better, more appealing. He was a little boy, and the other became a sort of Victorian drama. And I think one should, when you transfer anything to the screen, you must know why you're doing it, and not keep the essence, but not change it too much, and yet make it in a dramatic form.
Well, also, throughout the years, since you've been directing, maybe rightly or wrongly, but you have been referred to as a woman's director. Would you quarrel with this? You have directed probably every big woman star in the business. But I guess you've also directed every probably big male star in the business.
No, there are, I always say to that, I'm very pleased to be known as that. I always say, well, there were always men in the pictures, and there was John Barrymore and Tracy and James Stewart and Ronald Colman. I think that was those were the days of great movie queens, and maybe that's why the ladies had these overwhelming personalities, which is not very fashionable at the moment. I don't know of any great sensational, in fact in life either, there are not any great overwhelming women personalities. It's interesting, I go to my chiropodist every now and then. I look at the movie magazines, and the people they have on the covers of these magazines are not movie actresses for the most part. They're Mrs. Kennedy, then Elizabeth Taylor, and Mia Farrow. They don't really. They aren't. This is not the day of the cult of enormous personalities, especially women or men. As this young man wants to ask me something.
Yeah. Along those lines, do you feel sort of an affinity with younger filmmakers, what's going on in film now, or do you feel sort of confused or left out by?
Do I feel left out, or youth feels left out?
Do you feel left out by the new way of making films now?
No, I don't feel left out. I think you have to go along with it. I'm working, I'm preparing a picture. Graham Greene thing. No, I don't feel left out at all. I'm aware of it, and I see certain things that are enormously interesting to me, and I see other things that I think are rather inept. But you can't. You're a fuddy-duddy if you don't see what's happening in the world. One has to take a historic perspective of everything. So.
Do you think you've been influenced by it?
Do I think? Oh, I'm sure I have. I've been influenced by life, by what goes on. You know, in every day you can't live in this world and not be affected what goes on with you. I think what is fatal is when somebody who's been working for a great many years gets panicky and wants to go with it, because I think that's rather foolish. You know, you must, what you've learned all your life, you should profit by, and you must make whatever. This is the lingo they talk, a personal statement. Well, you must know more or less what you are and what you're doing. No, I don't feel left out at all.
We have a.
Can I ask a question on?
Just a minute. We're just finishing this, okay?
Catherine Hepburn. I hope she is. Yes, I hope she is. Yes.
Okay, right there.
Can I ask a question? You were talking about today you don't have any great women actresses or great personalities. Could you maybe try to compare, if you've worked with her, Barbara Streisand with, let's say, Bette Davis or Greta Garbo, as far as a great personality
well, I think
on a screen?
I think she's an enormous. She's very unique. I wouldn't say she was an actress. Isn't she a singer principally? I wouldn't say that she was, but she is certainly one of the unique ones and overwhelming. But there aren't many out there, and there used to be a great many more many years ago. And I tell you why that was. In the days of the big movie companies, their careers were more or less guided. There was a consistency. There was a continuity. They would be given 2 pictures a year, and so therefore they were. When I think of the women who were under contract to Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, where I was for a great many years, Beck, Garbo, and Crawford, and all these people, they lasted for years and years because vehicles were provided for them, and that's very important. You know that now I think it's a little sort of hit and miss. A girl makes a big success, and then she probably hasn't the power to choose something, and I don't know whether they choose very wisely or whether the career goes on very long for that reason.
So you mean that there aren't as many good actors or actresses today?
No, I don't mean that at all. I mean that the careers, if you do 2 pictures a year and you do them for 10 years, you establish a public for yourself. Now, a girl might make a very, very interesting, or a young man might make a big hit in one thing. Now then one doesn't know what his next picture is going to be. And that is very often, very much in his own hands, and I'm not sure that he really knows how to control his own destiny. I find this an inconsistent thing. I find that young people are very enthusiastic about movies, about old ones, and then a few minutes later said, "Oh, wasn't it oppressive working in that these factories," which really is not quite so. And then I said, "But all these pictures that you admire so extravagantly were done under that system, and they're kind of thrown by that." I think there's a lot of talk around, rather glib talk, where people really don't know quite what was and what is now. I think it's not always exactly as they imagine it to be.
Well, speaking on that may apply to, I guess, W.C. Fields, who may even be bigger today
I
than
wish to Christ you stopped talking about W.C. Fields.
Okay, how about Jean Harlow?
I think W.C. Fields was a very clever man, but he's not my god or my idolatry.
No,
In
no.
fact, I found him rather uninteresting. Nice fellow, but that's all. Yeah. No. I hate to be known as the man who directed W.C. Fields for 2 weeks. That was the thing. No,
Well, no,
I'm teasing
about.
you.
Well, I was just leading up to.
Yes.
You have. No, the reason I mentioned that was because many people, many actors who, when they do their part, it gets a so-so reception, and then many years later,
Yes.
People idolize it more. Like, for example, what I wanted to finish the question with was, you also directed Jean Harlow at Dinner at 8, right? And
Yes.
also Marilyn Monroe in Let's Make Love.
Yes.
Now, when you were working with, now both of these are also looked up to, now that they're dead. Now, as far as when you were working with them, do you think they were good actresses at that
Well,
time?
they were enormously successful, and the public has a way
So was
of...
Lassie.
You're a little smart ass here. I'll tell you about that. And that's a silly thing to say. Lassie was a dog. These women were actresses, and they and also their careers were cut short by death. You can't. And as for making them heroic, Joan of Arc, I think one of the great things of hers that she was burned at the stake. That helped her a legend. No, I think both those women had something for the public and had something. They were, in a sense, they were very attractive and sexy, and a lot of their skills were underrated. I think both those women were very, very expert comedians, which is very, very difficult to do. They played comedy absolutely naturally, as though they didn't even quite understand what they were saying, and yet they were funny. I think they were both very talented actresses, and who knows if they'd lived where they might have landed.
Yeah.
I'm not. I've gone off with the attack. You said to me, "Are they better than Lassie?" Or what was your?
No, I was just speaking about success. We had a question.
Don't despise success, any of you.
Yes, right.
I think the public has an unerring smell. If there's something that interests the public, you find they're rather perceptive. Now you asked when they weren't all that successful at that time and they're appreciated later. Yes, that sometimes happens. I did a picture that was a ghastly flop when we did a picture called Sylvia Scarlett. I did with Katharine Hepburn and Cary Grant. It was a terrible flop, and now I find that it's being played at all the film festivals, and we're rather surprised at it, Miss Hepburn and I, about the thing.
It's going to be played at UCLA in a couple of weeks.
Yeah.
We have a question here.
Well, she's a fascinating personality. Now, I don't know what you mean, but she was a good actress. Oh, well, she was a very subtle actress, beautiful, an overwhelming personality, with enormous taste in her acting, and she left an indelible mark on her generation. I think she knew what she was doing and did it with the greatest taste and discretion. And you asked me specifically what you'd like to know. Well, that's, yeah. Oh, no, she's not cold. She's very witty. She's really doesn't like to be with people. I don't think that's an affectation. And I don't think that has anything to do really with her acting. I think that's a kind of a legend about her. I think as an actress, she, in her first pictures, she really wasn't as good as she was at the end. I think in the first pictures she was much more cumbersome, but always an enormous personality. And I worked with her twice. One picture wasn't a success, and the other where it was a case like W.C. Fields, Camille, where she was perfectly suited for that, and she gave a most subtle performance. She had, for example, the actress, the character is dying of TB, and she accomplished that very, very well. She just, all other actresses on the stage used to do a great deal of coughing and things. All she did is give us very dry, touch her lips and have a small cough, and you knew by the imagination that she was dying. And only once did she have a difficulty breathing. She was full of subtlety, and I thought a very resourceful actress.
We have a few questions over there.
You spoke. You spoke of W.C. Fields improvising. Do any female
I don't hear you,
stars?
dear. I don't understand you.
Do any female stars in particular stand out in your mind as improvising in such a way to change the role of women on the screen?
You say any stars improvise?
Any female stars in particular? You were talking of W.C. Fields improvising a lot. Were there any women stars who improvised a lot?
I don't believe in improvisation.
Well, okay. Then you think it's mainly that the director was the one. Do you
No,
think
no,
the
no. I mean is there is a text. They interpret things.
Yeah.
And naturally, when they play scenes, they add a great deal. But if you mean by improvisation, making up words and things as they go
No.
along.
I mean, making themselves stand out in such a way as to change the role of the woman on the screen.
Oh dear, I think that's very undisciplined. I think the thing should be of a piece. I think that would be a very inartistic and very, very wrong thing to do. I think it would be. I don't know what you mean to sort of intrude on the truth of the scene. Would that be that?
Well, just. I don't know. I'll have to think about that one. So, but do you feel that the director is more responsible then for the changing role of the woman, or do you think he's more of a reflector of the changing role?
No, I think it's a collaborative effort, but I think the text is important, and the director certainly could influence it, and an actress enriches it and brings a great deal to it, but with her individuality. But I'm all against improvisation. I think there is a great deal of freshness and spontaneity, but improvisation to me, as I see it now, is when the people just get up and say what's in their minds, and I think that's awfully undisciplined and likely to be rather boring.
Well, I didn't mean it to quite to that extent, but
No.
through mannerisms and just making yourself stand out more.
I think to make themselves, I think they have that. It's like the color of their eyes or the force of their personality. I think if anybody wants to do that, I think that's rather bad news. It's as though you had somebody playing in an orchestra, and then he suddenly thought, well, now I'm going to stand up and play my instrument a little louder than the other people. I don't think that's very artistic or a very honest way to behave. Mind you, I think only cheap actors and actresses do those tricks. I've never worked with a good one who doesn't lend themselves to the whole. And if you have a vivid personality, that comes out.
In your own career, do you feel that any one picture or pictures mark turning points in the role of the female?
Turning points in what, dear?
In the role of the female.
In
Role of the female.
in the
for
change-
mine or for other people? I seem rather obtuse, but I don't quite.
Well, for the female star in general, were there any particular pictures of yours that you felt were turning points?
No,
in the way-
I felt that they did very well. In good parts when they worked with me, I think I would bring out certain things and change their characters in a way. I don't think a director can do that, but with the part, and you might bring out certain things in the actress that she didn't know that she had before, or the actor. For example, it comes to mind, I think of it, I did a picture with Rosalind Russell, and up to then she'd been a leading lady, a romantic leading lady, and I did a picture with her many years ago. Well, for the first time, she played a comic, I think, a picture called The Women. and a director can foster that and see that. I tell you what I find rather disconcerting. I find that a lot of people, I was going to say you young people, patronizing, read a lot of these very arty magazines, and great things have grown up that are really not exact and not true, and not. I would suggest anybody who's interested in the film, you read everything you want, but go and see it and make your own judgment, and don't accept glib generalizations. That's what I mean.
Well, I want to just expand a little bit about what she asked. You directed, I think, Katharine Hepburn in one of her earliest, or probably maybe even her first film.
Her first, yes.
Her first film in Bill of Divorcement.
Yes.
And you also directed her many years later. Now, was there a change? Did you find in her, like, besides probably confidence, which she would probably get on her own by just doing pictures? Was there a change in her acting?
Well, she's had a very interesting artistic career, because at this moment she is quite changed. She's doing different things. There's a development in the career. Yes, I think, but maybe as inexperienced, and also she found things in her own personality that she wasn't aware of when she first started. And that is a natural development. If the actress is intelligent, she will keep on developing and changing, as everybody does.
Okay, are there any other questions? Yes.
How about some comments on the Academy Award?
What sort of comments do you want? Yes, I'm all for. Does what? Well, I think they do. First of all, I think it's absolutely on the level. I think it's honest. It's a democratic process. Sometimes the judgment, one doesn't agree with it, because sometimes it's emotional. But it's the only award that is absolutely honest and represents the, maybe sometimes ill-advised, the opinion of the members of the Academy. I think they do a great many things. It's unfortunate the Academy has the image of just a big publicity stuff, that they give these entertainments and they give the Oscar. They do a great many other things. They've had a very important effect in all the years on technical things, development, and things they give for all sorts of things that one doesn't hear about, sound and photography. And they've given scholarships, and they are giving scholarships. They have retrospective shows, and they're going to have many more than that. I think they want to be involved with the coming generation, not in a slavish way, but I think it's an admirable organization, and they try honestly to see what they can do for the motion picture industry. Sometimes I do not agree with their prizes, but then I don't agree with a lot of elections. But that doesn't mean we ought to go and shoot ourselves because certain people are elected. I think it's all that. But by and large, they're quite right.
Okay, let's take our last question over here.
Yes.
Do you have a question? Somebody? Right there.
Yes. I would say I don't believe in censorship, but I see horrendous, foul, unpleasant, stupid things going on the screen, and I think it narrows the audience, and sometimes I'm just embarrassed. It's like a lousy peep show, and I'm not prudish at all. I think if people had taste, but a lot of these excesses are just to make a fast buck, and just to see how many dirty words they can put into it, and the motives are impure. The motives are to shock and to make money, and I think those things are not quite true. I think they're just as the absurd things that they used to have of censorship, that I think these are just as I know there's this obligatory naked scene here. There's this and that, which I find not at all erotic, I don't. I think there's a swing away. I do really think that that you cannot have anything that you respect, which is just pornography and vulgarity. And I must tell you that I'm not all that square and not all that respectable. It's as though you read pornographic books all the time. Well, I don't think that's very interesting, one way or the other. What's that? There's something what?
Demand. There is some demand for it.
Demand, of course there is. There's demands. You just read about the massage parlors are closed. The great raid of the massage parlor. Demand, I think they should have all of that. But do you think that these films should be encouraged? See all these where you think they're. Well, yes, I think the public, if they want to see it, I think they get what they deserve, and they obviously can see what they. But I think it's so easy to do those things. I think it's just nothing. I think it's certainly what it does. It crowds over. It's like the weeds taking over. If you have a field there, and you have a lot of lousy weeds. After a while, the field will die. Whatever the plants will die by just the rank things that's going on. I've seen a great many of those films, not too many, and I think they're just stupid myself. Yes. That's very tragic, I must say. Well, I think there is always a demand. There's enormous interest in movies. It have vitality, and somehow it will rise again. Maybe not in the form of the big studios or something, but yes.
Okay, we have to go now. Thank you, Mr. Cukor, for being with
Thank you.
us. Thank you all.
I hope I've made some sense for you.